This is It's Not What You Know. Hello, I'm Miles Jupp. It's often said that it's not what you know, it's who you know. This is why it's perfectly reasonable to start curing and selling your own ham without the necessary hygiene certificates, just as long as you once played poker with the wardrobe assistant from the film Babe 2, Pig in the City. Or why it's perfectly acceptable to say I may not have enough votes to be elected as a Member of Parliament in Zimbabwe, but I am Robert Mugabe. Tonight we're coming to you from the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, the annual celebration of the arts where performers and various hangers-on from all over the world come together and do their very best to ruin Scotland for the people who live in it. I have with me three very knowledgeable guests, but on this show we don't care what you know, it's all a matter of who you know and how well you know them. Each of our three guests has nominated someone they know well to answer a series of questions. If my guests correctly predict the answers their nominees will give, they will score points. Score more points than anyone else, and you could yet be picking up tonight's star prize, a statue of one of Scottish comedy's greatest sons, a figure familiar around the world for his wonderful stories, his brilliant work on television, film, and the live stage. It is, of course, the big in himself, the Right Honourable Member for Edinburgh South West, Alistair Darling, MP. The statue stands a dainty 11 feet tall, and special features include a cup holder, a warming oven, and eyes that flash a vivid red every time our national credit rating is downgraded. So great for Christmas. And with that tantalising prospect on offer, will you please welcome tonight's panel, Kevin Bridges, Hannah Gadsby and Rory McGrath. Thank you. Kevin Bridges has enjoyed a meteoric rise to comedy fame, one that has led him to being dubbed the young Scotsman most likely to one day be able to afford a house south of the border. His chirpy stand-up has won him regular gigs on television, including his own BBC One show, Kevin Bridges' What's the Story? 26-year-old Kevin has the mind and outlook of a man twice his age and the body of a woman many years older than that. Kevin, how did you go about selecting your nominee for this evening?
This is the guy who made me. I don't mean that in that he gave me a break. I mean he literally made me. He's a bit of a plonker, but he's a good plonker.
Let's hear who he is.
I'm Andy Bridges. I live in Hargate, just outside Clydebank, and I am Kevin Bridges' father.
That's right, It is Kevin Bridges' father, Andy Bridges. Next, we welcome award-winning Australian comedian Hannah Gadsby, a regular visitor to the Edinburgh Festival Fringe and a familiar face on Australian television, where her appearances on the show Adam Hills Tonight helped to break up hours of wall-to-wall soap opera, Aussie rules football and doom-laden bushfire forecasts. Hannah, how did you pick your nominee?
I picked a friend that I went to university with. I didn't go with family because that could be too much.
Let's find out who you've gone for.
Hi, I'm Susie. I work for an Aboriginal organisation and live in the middle of the Western Australian desert, and I'm one of Hannah's closest friends.
Yes, indeed, all the way from the Australian outback, it's Hannah's friend, Susie Dayton. And what can one say about Rory McGrath that others have not muttered under their breath at the very sight of him? Comedian, writer, presenter, panellist, and a man who spent many days in a boat with Griff Rhys-Jones and Dara Ó Briain in a televisual tribute to that classic work of literature, Jean-Paul Sartre's No Exit. Now, Rory, spill the beans. How did you pick your nominee tonight?
I've chosen a guy who I've known since the early 80s. We're in toddler group together. He was best man at my wedding. I was best man at his wedding. I'm godfather of his child. I told the rudest joke ever at his wedding and caused an uproar. You want to hear it? No. Well, the last line is, "Haven't you got a vase?" It's about a girl and some flowers. That's all I can tell you.
It sounds like a wonderful occasion. Let's see who you've gone for.
Hi, I'm Philip Pope, and I'm actually doing a show with Rory at the Festival Fringe in Edinburgh.
That's right, it's Rory's friend and longtime comedy collaborator, Philip Pope. Well, that sick feeling in the pit of my agent's stomach suggests that it's time for me to start the show. In round one, we ask your nominees some questions to find out what they know about you. What you have to do is guess the answers they gave to those questions. Kevin Bridges, you're first. We asked your father, Andy, who is Kevin's all-time hero? What do you imagine he said?
Well, I don't know if he would say himself. I don't know if he's that self-absorbed. Your dad is your hero, then you discover he's a moron. So, I would say my dad would be my hero, that's the correct answer, but I reckon he would say somebody like Noel Gallagher, because I bought an Oasis CD when he was there, when I was like 13. So,
let's have a listen. Andy, do you agree? Who is Kevin's all-time hero?
Che Guevara.
Che Guevara. I also had a poster of Pamela Anderson on my bedroom wall. I was going through a transitional period in my life. So my own dad thinks my hero is Che Guevara.
He does, yes.
That's great.
From the world music section. Yes, of course, Kevin and Ernesto Che Guevara have many things in common. Che Guevara overthrew the government of Cuba and set up a new socialist state, whilst Kevin once made a remark about George Osborne on Channel 4's Stand Up for the Week that some thought was a little near the knuckle. Sadly, no points, Kevin, but time for a lot of beautiful stories. Hannah, you're up next. We put this question to your friend Susie. If Hannah had not been a comedian, what job would she have done instead? What do you think she said?
Ooh, I had a distinct lack of potential, mixed with, just genuine laziness. I was a cinema projectionist before, although that's, a dying art now. You can't do that anymore. They just...
Do you still do it, Hannah? Have you kept your hand in?
No, because they've gone digital.
Are they?
Yeah,
Have you kept your finger in then?
Yeah, so I would say cinema projectionist, maybe.
OK, cinema projectionist. Susie, what is Hannah's alternative career choice?
Bingo calling.
I did do that, yeah.
Have you got some experience of bingo calling?
Yeah. I used to do it as a kid, like at the local golf club.
Did you have your own sort of cheeky banter and ways of calling numbers?
Yeah, I like to mix it up, naughty whore 44, fatty and skinny 81.
Yes, bingo, some call it a working class pastime. I call it a perfectly respectable first name for any character in a P.G. Wodehouse novel. Sadly, no points. Rory
Yes.
McGrath, a man whose behaviour during the Feel the Sportsman round on the BBC's They Think It's All Over, suggested that he thought if he was wearing a blindfold, no one could see him. Rory, we threw this one out to Philip. Rory is an avid bird watcher, so of course we all want to know what is his favourite bird. What do you think Philip said?
You asked Philip what my favourite bird is. I suspect he honed in on the old-fashioned ambiguity of the word bird, did he? And said something like, whichever bird is serving him behind the bar? Did something like that? Oh, I don't know, actually. I don't like to be... I'm not really a twitcher as such. But I do go to North Norfolk a lot, it's near where I live. And it's probably some rarity that I've seen up there. Like the Palace Leaf Warbler. Or did he go for comic obviousness, like tit? Shag?
Well, why don't you choose two
Chuff.
answers?
What?
Choose two answers.
Oh, dear. Kingfisher.
OK, let's have a go, Philip.
Well, look, whoever just walked past him in the street, I think.
That's what I said.
2 points.
Yeah.
Now to Kevin Love Can Builder Bridges. We're back with you. We asked your dad, what was the naughtiest thing Kevin did as a child? What do you think he's going to dredge up?
Naughty things I got into a lot of bother in school. Used to do a lot of prank calls and stuff like that. I nearly drowned my mum once.
That's naughty.
It was a summer's day and I was just bored. I think it was somebody's birthday. There was loads of party decorations in the house and I got one of the balloons and just filled up with water. It was huge. Once you put it in, it was the whole size of the sink. You had to sort of hold it like a newborn baby. And I walked out the front door of our house and walked away around to the back. And my mum was out the back sunbathing. And I threw it over. And I just heard this big... and my brother shouting, run. And I did... and then I came back round to the front door as if, oh, what happened to you, Mum? That's terrible. I'll ask around in the street and figure out who done that, see if we can get a lead. So So I reckon he'd say something like that. Attempted to drown his wife, I'd imagine.
Right.
It was pretty naughty.
OK. Andy, does this square with your memories?
Well, he nearly drowned his mother.
That's right.
I knew it had left a scar on the family.
There we are. Yeah, nice work, Shay. He nearly drowned. The operative word, I think, is nearly there. As far as I'm concerned, if there's no fatalities, it basically comes under the heading of horseplay. Hannah, have a think about this one. We asked Susie, what is the worst gig Hannah has ever had?
Yeah, I haven't involved her too much in that part of my life. She lives in the desert. She has a tough gig. Oh, gosh. Well, my worst gig I have done was in Bristol. I got... no, sorry, Birmingham. I don't know. It starts with B. I got slow clapped off stage, but I tried to soldier on. But I went with the tempo of the clap, and so my rhythm of speech just slowed down to a stop. Oh, and then I got beer cans thrown at me at the Falls Festival in Australia. And it was full too. They must have really hated me because, because it takes so long to line up for your alcohol at these festivals. And they must have been so angry because that was a full beer. I was quite happy I didn't have to line up. Maybe it was that one. Yeah.
OK, let's see what Susie has to say.
Oh, Lord. There's been a few. I was there. Sorry. Yeah, Edinburgh Festival 2010. Some drunk Scotsmen came in with sombreros with lights and they heckled her mercilessly. That was pretty bad.
Yeah, I do remember this. And you know why? Because they couldn't get into Kevin's show. He was sold out.
Is that the fact of the matter?
My 2010 show had a strict dress code, so that would explain that.
No poncho, no admission. Yes, well, I'm sorry you had to trawl through those, Hannah. I guess there'll be some people listening to this show who haven't come across Hannah before. It only seems fair to introduce you to her by bringing up her lowest professional ebb.
There's been a few, apparently.
Yes, that was an unsupportive remark.
I've done a gig in a prison.
Is that your worst gig, would you say, in front of...
A guy just got up and left halfway through my set. Rather than listen to the rest of my show, he just went back to his cell. That was pretty tough to take. This guy's abysmal. I'm about to finish my life sentence.
That is a pointed heckle, isn't it? Finally, we turn to Rory. Rory, we asked Philip, what is happy-go-lucky Rory McGrath's worst character trait? What do you suppose he plumped for?
My worst character trait? I don't know. I think I'm sharing a flat with him in Edinburgh, and I think it's probably quite revealing to him that I'm quite paranoid. Why do you all quiet then? I worry a lot, and I think what he's noticed most is I pace up and down all the time.
OK, well, let's see what Philip thought. Philip?
He tends to pace up and down when he's getting fretful and nervous.
He tends to pace up and down. Well, how else are you supposed to kill time in a police cell? No. Well, how about that? It's the end of the first round, so let's look at the scores, which, as always on It's Not What You Know, have been independently verified by some people that we know. In this case, the massed pipers and drummers of the Edinburgh Tattoo. Met up with them early this week, and I have to say, what a great bunch of lads. A memorable and fantastic evening. Well, I say fantastic, I didn't really understand what was going on. It just seemed like noise to me, but apparently some Americans enjoyed it. And we can see that in joint second place are Kevin and Hannah, and out in front it's Rory. What better mood to start round two in? We've already found out how well the nominees know the panellists. In this round, we're going to see how well the panellists know their nominees. We start this time with Hannah Gadsby. Hannah, let's see how well you know Susie. We asked her, Susie, what is your favourite food? What do you think she said? Oh,
well, she was a vegetarian for a very long time and then had a sausage. And it was all over. Although she drinks salad dressing. She will drink that out of a bottle, or I'm going to say salad dress. She just there's a problem. She lives in a dry community, I guess, because there's no alcohol there. So maybe that's she's just drinking salad dressing for that sting at the back of her throat.
Well, let's see. Susie, your preferred food?
Salad dressing.
And how do you take it?
I drink it out of the bottle.
Well, there we are. Goodness me, what a handy trick to have up your sleeve to prevent any meal from turning into a romantic one. 2 points. Rory, let's see how well you know Philip. Philip's a composer, a man of many musical talents, so given a free choice, what would he sing in karaoke? What do you think he went for?
I don't know, he's mainly a classical singer, actually. He's a choir master and a choral scholar. Can you sing Beethoven's Sixth Symphony in karaoke? Does that work?
I could imagine the crowd becoming restless if you did.
I'm going to plump the obvious one and say, Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini.
Well, it's a lovely thought. Let's have a look at Philip.
I'd probably do All Right Now by Free.
What? I think it's a different Phil Pope you've got here.
Well, what's he claims? All right now. Coincidentally, the same words Rory often hears when he comes around being said by paramedics. No points, sadly. So it's back to Kevin Bridges of Madison County.
Takes me back to my school days. Just getting a hard time.
Oh, really?
Brings back a lot of school bullying there, Miles. I'd appreciate if you just maybe lay off that sort of...
The idea that at your school you were being bullied by people like me seems somewhat... I really can't imagine it being that way round. Well, Kevin, let's see how well you know your father. We asked Andy Bridges, if you could bring in any law, what would it be?
Who knows what he'd bring in? As I say, he's a idiot. He is an idiot. He's always loved rail travel, my dad, but he's never really come to terms with the fact that trains leave at a certain time. I was about 10 years old. They were trying to book a holiday, and he walked into the travel agent and he'd asked how much it would be to go on the Orient Express, and I never knew what that meant, but my dad turned chalk white when he got the answer. And then actually last year I got my trip on the Orient Express. Yes, there we go, lovely. I came through that school bullying and made something good in my life. I got my trip and they went to Innsbruck station, that's where they were in. And he missed the train. He's the only guy in the history of the Orient Express that's missed it. And the train, he got off to text me. He's used to be on the phone. I got my mobile phone as well, a wee old school drug dealer phone. And he's used to me saying, I'm on the train, Dad, I don't get a signal. So he's obviously got that in his head that even though the train is static at the platform, you still don't get a signal on board the train. So he was texting me. He came off the train to text me and the train just pulled away. And he had to run up to the main information bit in Innsbruck station. Obviously never spoke the local language and they never spoke much English, so they just seen him shouting and pointing. I think they just thought it was an excited Scottish guy that had just seen the Orient Express. And he was trying to tell them he had a ticket for it, and then that was it. He had to get in a taxi, and the Orient Express had to pull into a regional station and wait on my dad coming, so that was it. A high-speed chase. So I reckon they would bring in some sort of law that you just show up when you want for things.
Sort of a law whereby you're allowed to hail the Orient Express.
A law that removes rules.
You can see that creating some problems. Andy, bring down your iron fist and name that law.
People that wait at traffic lights before they put their right indicator on. No, and you're queued up behind them.
People, rights, what are you going to do to these people?
See if it was a tank, I would run right over the top.
I've not understood a word your dad has said.
I think that's going to be pretty much the theme of the feedback on the BBC. I mean, I thought The Sun was bad, but geez, oh. So what did they actually say? People
that aren't indicating correctly at traffic lights, he would run them over with a tank.
So, of all the things that's wrong in the world, that's what he'd change. He's a fine man.
No points, sadly.
I actually had him done as a much more liberal type than his actual answer. Which...
Oh no, I mean we've had to lose a lot of stuff. I think we've all been pretty surprised by some of the stuff. Because a lot of it wasn't even in response to questions. I mean, it was. It's the end of round 2. Let's look at the scores, which, as usual on It's Not What You Know, have been independently verified by some people that we know. In this case, the Scottish Smokeries Association. Met up with them early this week. Let me tell you, a great bunch of lads. Never one to miss an opportunity. They ended the evening by hanging me upside down in a shed and said they'd be back in 3 weeks when I'd acquired an even gamier flavour. And we can see that in joint second place are Rory and Kevin, but out in front now it's Hannah. It's fingers on buzzers time for the next few questions. If you buzz in and you're wrong, it'll cost you a point, and who knows what else. We're in a temporary structure. We don't know if these things are properly earthed. Now, panellists, I'll give you the answer to a question. What you have to do is tell me which of the nominees gave that answer. Rory McGrath's double act partner, Philip, Hannah Gadsby's best friend, Susie, or Kevin Bridges' dad, Andy. Who said that if they could learn to play any instrument, musical or medical, they would choose the... They would choose the trumpet.
My dad, he's mentioned that before to me, the trumpet. I think it was after a Lurpak advert. He went... I'm going to go for Andy on
OK, let's see.
Never get round to it, but I always had the hankering to play a trumpet.
Yes, it was spreadable butter fan and aspiring musician Andy. 2 points. Which of the nominees said that the TV show that they would most like to appear in or on is Eggheads?
I don't know what Eggheads is.
Right. Well, Eggheads is a sort of quiz show featuring...
bald people. Quiz show for slapheads, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a quiz show exclusively featuring bald people in an attempt to redress some of the injustices of the last 50 years of television.
And then they get their heads scalped and soldiers dive in. It's quite a violent game show.
Yeah, there is quite a high turnover of guests. Yeah, it's a quiz show for people that are peculiarly intelligent.
Oh, right, OK. I was going to say, if it's the violent one, it'd be your dad.
People getting killed to a brass soundtrack.
Yeah. I would say your man.
Philip, yeah.
Philip.
Let's find out.
I want to be on Eggheads.
Oh.
There we are. Yes, it was in fact Susie. Of course, Australians have different standards for what constitutes an egghead. No, it's just going to be a really rude anti-Australian joke. There's no...
Go on.
Go on.
Of course, Australians have different standards for what constitutes an egghead. For them, a really smart person is someone who can name all 6 Australian states, or who chooses to emigrate. Right, no
There's 7.
points. Sorry?
There's 7.
Why, just... Well... What are they, all 7?
Tasmania, Victoria.
Tasmania doesn't count.
That's where I'm from.
Does it really count as a state? I know they play Sheffield Shield cricket, but does it count as
they've got a government and a static population. Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland, Western Australia, South Australia, and there's 2. Oh, there's 6. But so no, there's 5. Tasmania doesn't count.
And finally, in this round, a whole Alistair Darling statue to play for, I should say. Which of our nominees firmly stated their support for Scottish independence? Hannah.
I'm going to say Susie.
Definitely.
OK,
It pains her to see the struggle of the repressed people by the British regime.
Susie, let's see if you're right.
I've got the claymore under the bed ready to march to Carlisle tomorrow.
Goodness me, it was Andy Bridges. Yes, it's a big question being talked about the length and breadth of the country, obviously, excluding England and Wales and most of Edinburgh.
I maintain that Scottish independence would be a good laugh. Now, I don't know how politically sound that thinking is, but see if we could get maybe a built-in 5-year return clause. Then I think we should definitely go for it.
Yeah.
And if we totally balls it up, that we can come back to you going, sorry about that. Andy Murray, he's yours, we totally get it, he's British. We'll support you at every World Cup. The Ashes, talk us through this Ashes, we're pretty keen to get into that. Let us. But give us 5 years, free for all, and see what happens.
It is the end of the show. The points have been gathered in, and I could lie to you about this, but I won't. They have been totted. And as ever on It's Not What You Know, these scores have been independently verified by some people that we know, in this case, the Duchy of Argyll. Went out with them early this week. Let me tell you, a great bunch of lairds. I think we can all agree that was worth the investment. I should probably have got more. I was expecting at this point to be borne aloft on the shoulders of a cheering throng. It's probably an anti-English thing. And the final scores show that in third place is Rory, in second place is Hannah, but heading off with that Alistair Darling statue, currently on the back of a low loader parked in a no-stopping zone, and now your legal responsibility, it's Kevin! So, thank you to our panellists, Rory McGrath and his friend Philip, Hannah Gadsby and her friend Susie, Kevin Bridges and his father Andy. Thank you to you for listening. I guess after all that, it just goes to show it's not what you know. Good night. It's Not What You Know was hosted by me, Miles Jupp. The script was written by myself and James Kettle. The producer was Sam Michelle.